Arg. Next day, and stupidly I put super glue on the nuts and bolts inside here to fix them so they wouldn't rattle loose, and I screwed the top on. And now what's happened is that the super glue overnight, the fumes from it have managed to stain all of the back of the lens with its white sort of smoky effect. It's just not right. So what I'm going to have to do is try and get that apart, and that is also a pain. Oh, and I've put the you can see the lovely engravings, which I think look really nice. I think they go really well and are nicely balanced with the whole thing. Again, it doesn't look like something with a load of stuff stuck on it. It actually looks like it could have some other purpose. And of course, because I stuck this down to stop this undoing as well, it's now all glued together. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I really don't want to damage anything, but I think I found this, which is thin enough if I file it out a bit, to grip the bottom half, and then I'll grip the top half with another pair of pliers, adjustable pliers, and then try and undo it. Or I'll drill out this lens and then I can get to the nuts and bolts. It's just one of those catch-22 things. Really annoying. Anyway, live and learn. That's what I say. Phew. Right, I'm ummed and ahed about different ways of doing this. Obviously you don't want to put too much torsion or tension or anything else on the fitting because it'll wreck it. And in the end I decided, in order to get a pair of adjustable pliers underneath that, now I've stuck the label down, obviously I couldn't do that side, it wasn't enough depth, so I took all this to pieces, just this end bit off, which is good, and then I could get to that, and then it undid, which is fantastic. I'm so pleased. Here's the milky effect, and I know I've said it before, so I'll say it again. Police forces, crime scene investigators or whatever, they use super glue in a fume cupboard, and they put things that might have latent fingerprints in, and then release the super glue, and in the morning, a few hours later, it really does pick up. Oh, I use water with this, but I must have just brushed my finger on it before I put it together, because you can see it's this strange smoky finish. This has had about 18 hours to dry, the super glue, so that should be absolutely fine. In the end, who needs, what do you call it? Who needs a solvent to get off the clouds of super glue fumes when you can just sand it a bit more on some wet and dry? I don't overcomplicate everything. So that's going to sit on there without any horrible white lines, and that's lovely because it's got a little bit of mystique, a sort of hint of a few things. That's going on there, and I'll put a drop of fix thread lock on this and just tighten it up, and then there shouldn't be any nasty white fumes and stains. Then I need to wire it all together. In fact, I think I will leave that a little bit longer. Let's put that there. Doesn't that look lovely? Lovely optics. Because if we turn this over, we have a new addition to the family. We have hold on a minute. The perils of super glue. I put so much super glue on this that I managed to stick the switch together. Oh, how ridiculous. It's a little micro switch, so that when you open that up, it switches the light on to tell you you've opened it up. I've also cut that piece of Veriboard, which I'm going to use to connect that up, and I need to make a little enclosure over this. Oh, at least these are brass screws, so I can undo them. Oh, super glue, she's a cruel mistress. Gives with one hand, takes away with the other. A ruined, glued up micro switch. And focus. Clicking. Note to self, don't use too much super glue. In fact, you don't need any super glue on this. You've got 2 screws through it. It's not going to go anywhere. I'll just put a little dob on the end of each of the screws to stop the nuts loosening, and that'll be fine. Just control of yourself. It's always worthwhile taking things to pieces, and I have got the right one. It's a broken one. I haven't just ruined yet another one. Micro switches are beautiful things inside. They've got some sort of spring mechanism, so that when you press the button you can see this little contact flicks over really quickly, hence the clicking. So they're very, very efficient electrically and mechanically. They have very long life and can handle fairly high currents for something so small. Beautiful little things. I've just thought of a potential problem, an issue if you like. This whole area is going to be full of plastic bags, recycled plastic bags. That just needs to be pushed and he's going to switch it on. That is a problem, because if this is full of plastic bags, you see where I'm going with this. So I'm thinking about reed relays instead. Not reed relays, I always say that, reed switches. Here's a reed switch. You can see the ones I've got are very small, but they are very reliable. They're two very, very thin pieces of metal, very close together, fixed into a glass tube. And when you bring up a magnet, such as this one, it switches on. A very, very faint pink sound. I'm going to go and check on the current rating for these. I think it's surprisingly high. But if that's okay, I think I might change that. So let's take another reed switch off, another micro switch off. The magnet can be stuck on the back of that. The reed switch can go here, possibly embedded in some epoxy resin to protect it. And then plastic bags can't switch it on or off. Only the magnet can. Excellent. I think that may be the way forward. I've never designed a plastic bag steampunk holding machine before, so it's all a bit new to me. Live and learn. It's absolutely amazing. 200 volts at half an amp. Isn't that incredible? Look at the size of it. That's absolutely incredible, and that's well within the rated. That's normal switching ability. I think sometimes they put some sort of inert gas inside here, inside the tube, and they also coat the ends of it with something clever, some clever element that stops arcing. That's incredible. And they do keep running. My mum's got a weather station in her garden, and it's got the anemometer, the wind speed thing, and it jammed up once because the bearing got rain in it, but it works with a magnet spinning round and round and round next to one of these. And obviously, imagine how many times an anemometer goes round. Millions, and it still works perfectly. Amazing things. Right, now we've got the reed switch soldered in place using the two existing screws, so I've got holes in the front. The switch is wired across or in line with the LED that's connected via the variable with the resistor, current limiting resistor, which is 680 ohms. So it'll run happily off 12 volts at 2 volts full voltage and 15 to 20 milliamps. We've got the wires on the back of that switch that's going to switch the flickering flame lamp on. You'll know if you've watched previous videos my unnatural love of fuses, although it's a good idea, especially in a vehicle. So there's a 1 amp fuse there, wired in line with the cable connector, goes through the fuse to the switches to the bulbs, and there's the flickering flame effect fixed into place. So now, before I smother everything in epoxy resin, I will test it. Well, power supply set to 12 volts. Don't know why it says 30 milliamps when nothing's connected to it because the switch is off, but never mind. That then goes through the wires to the respective connectors. Let's have a look. Turn it over and we'll see what it does. The power is on. Let's a little bit of subdued lighting. See what happens. So, first thing to test is the switch. Let's see. Woohoo! There is the lovely flame effect. Excellent. So that's that one. Now let's check this. Now when we open this up, it should switch on that light. So let's, well actually, yes, brilliant. And the other lovely thing about the reed switches are that when you get close to them they switch on. Never quite sure quite how close. That's really good. It switches on in good time before this hits the stop. Oh, that's fantastic. Excellent. And then switches off. You just hear the plink. I think it's safe to say that it is safe to put the lens back on here because all the glue will have dried. And this is made from a 22mm compression fitting stop end. Those of you who are interested. And that just, I've never used one of these for this job before, but it works really nicely, especially with these LED plastic lenses. Right, try that now with the lens on. Look at the lovely reflections. Ooh, right. And opening. Yes! Beautiful green glow. Yes! That's really exciting. And then the cable entry is in the top thereabouts. And in fact, it's quite nice having this ventilation hole in the top because it might actually project a nice little flickering flame effect on the surrounding area. I found that with the Is It Time for Tea machine. Even though it was meant to come out the window that looked like this, a lot of it went round the rest of the machine, which really did help the overall look. God. The Detritus Impoundment Dispensator is finished, dare I say it. And here it is from the back, and you can see really nice little flickering flame. And so you sometimes get little bits of flame extending out the top. Very pleased with that. And here's the reed switch. So as I bring the magnet closer, there's the magnet. Closer, 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 and it switches on. Right, now to stain the switch panel, the wooden part of it, to make it match with the floor covering. Now I've searched through my collection of wood stains. It's handy and easy to get to, hence the fact my thumb has started leaking. And I've tried all the different colours I've got, and I think I have ruined all of them by slowly trying to make them darker and darker. So there's light oak that isn't, there's Georgian oak that isn't. This is Danish oil, which I think maybe that's the closest I can get. So I've got some Danish oil, amazing stuff. It's non-toxic when you put it on food preparation surfaces, which is great because it does seal it, and it's made of completely natural things, resins and things from trees and stuff, but it can spontaneously combust. I hasten to add, not once it's set, but I've got a brilliant book, and it explains the fact that it's an oxidizing agent, and it can produce, it's an exothermic reaction, and it produces lots of heat. And if you've got a huge tissue soaked in it, or a rag, as it dries it oxidizes and produces so much heat that it can actually get hot enough to set a rag or a piece of tissue, ooh, look, there's some more blood there, on fire. So beware, if you're going to use Danish oil, and I have used it excessively in the past for things like turning old science wooden tables into kitchen work surfaces and such like, just be aware. What I do is either to put all the used rags outside, well away from the house. Would you, Adam and Eva, I've just noticed there's one of the cut-in pieces of veneer here. The chances in the whole sheet to find that one bit, but they do it so well it doesn't show up until you try and stain it or whatever. I'm going to have to cut out another one of them. Ridiculous. What horrible stuff, you got varnish. I've now put on, I think, it's about 6 light coats over the space of 24 hours. And as you can see, it's still not coating it properly. It's all blotchy and liney where it's soaked in. And I mean, how many coats do they think I'm going to put on? I really don't know. So I think what I'm going to do is cut out another one and use some nice Decorators satin finish varnish. Just can't go wrong. Acrylic varnish, much better. I don't know, I think I just saw that other aerosol can sitting around and thought, oh, let's use some more aerosol. No. Now, before I can cut out another switch panel, I need to clear all this. Look at that, efficient use of acrylic sheet. Very little waste. Here we are, another 30 gauges, decorative gauges, because I just suddenly realised I've run out. What I do, with some Krakens, I keep a stock of the 38mm ones and the 50mm ones, and I have suddenly realised I've got one left. And then I have the gauges, and when people order one of these, I've got the cabochons and the gauges, and I cut them out, trim them, glue them together. That way I don't have loads and loads of unwanted gauges sitting around. I can tailor make it. Helps me to keep on top of everything. It works really nicely that way, until you forget that you haven't got enough. So I'll get these cleared up, and I've got a nice little jig to glue them all together. Quite a lot of work goes into these gauges, these decorative gauges. Right, let's get that done, and then I can cut out another switch panel, number 3. As always, I can't do anything simple, so the larger ones have an external part with the engraved screws, and that sits on a nice background with a slight out step, slightly larger step, so that looks really nice when it's all painted. And also, a cunning plan to save even more plastic, I cut the middles, use the middles to cut the 38mm gauges out of. And the backgrounds for these I have kept from a previous batch. It's a little bit haphazard, but it seems to work. These aren't just any gauges, they're Steamhead gauges. So there's the lovely jig that sits like that. That goes in there. There's the front bit with the engraved screw heads on, which I will then put a very, very thin layer of super glue, and then flip it over and use the jig to line it up in the centre, and then put a weight on it while the glue sets. It's as simple as that. And here's some I prepared earlier, 28 in fact, still being squashed by the glue sets. Then after they're all set, the, dare I say, hideous part starts. I start painting them, and however careful I am with cleaning, hoovering and everything else, mind you, I'm getting better at it. I don't understand why it is so difficult to get all of them finished perfectly, but it never works like that. We'll have a go though. Here are the originals. As you can see, they're really quite large, as I really wanted to get realism. So for example, here's the Kraken proximity detection, and having lit it and photographed it really carefully, it just looks, focus, looks lovely with the glow coming out. It really does look realistic, especially with the lens over the front, because it gives it a real 3D look. So that one, Steamhead, which originally I was going to try and animate using lenticular lenses, but couldn't get it to work. That's yet another project on the list of things to do one day. And again, that looks really nice, especially with the little red gem inside and details. And then there's the T1, smaller than the others, but size isn't everything. That's what that one looks like. So they're all created originally. I've seen other people do gauges, and they draw them in a computer and create them virtually, whereas I really do like taking nice photographs and lighting things well, and this way I've got full control. You know, the subtlety, for example, in this light of the shadow, it looks really nice. You can't beat it. I thank you. Right, 30 new 50mm, which is about 2 inches diameter. Is it? 25.4, yeah, roughly 2 inches diameter. I've hoovered them all lovingly, placed some sort of mask in the centre so that when I glue the cabochon on the photographic printout, I've got something to glue onto that's not painted. So, talking of painted, let's paint them. Oh, really forgot, new rule. Oh, switch the top one off, and then all the fumes can go out of the back one. Because despite hoovering and everything else, yeah, look, here's one I destroyed earlier. There's a big lump of fluff or dust or something there, so that's going to have to be, wait till that dries and then sand that with wet and dry. And going along, yep, look, there's a piece of something there, there's floof here. It is just, oh, well, I suppose that's not too bad. Only 6 that need a little bit of attention, as you can see. Some strange blemishing around there, perhaps some glue got on it. Little speck there. I'll get these sanded with the wet and dry. Now this is finished, I'm getting ready. As you can see, I've got my black cloth down, ready to do some nice photographs or videos. And what I realised was I want to get the flickering flame effect working and the portal open light working. I was thinking, having wires running to it would be a shame. I thought batteries, yes. So now I've taken the batteries, spot my family's fun, taken the batteries out of the Wii play thing, whatever it's called, Wii PlayStation, I don't know. And I'm charging them up, and I'm going to hide 2 battery holders underneath there, and then I can do some nice photographs and video without worrying about wires. And look, 2 coats of acrylic varnish later, satin finish. It's a lovely even finish. 2 coats on that rubbish spray. This is going to be nearer the floor, so it needs to be a lighter brown, so I haven't stained this. So that's looking really good. Next job, put the 3 engraved names on and glue in some false brass screws in each corner. Don't mix different types of batteries, you say? Well, needs must when the devil rides. So we've got 2 of them, which will be 12 volts, and 2 of these at the connectors, and they're wired up. Oh, and while I'm at it, I don't think I mentioned that I'd smothered everything in epoxy resin. I was originally thinking about having plastic surrounds and this, that and the other. It's just so complicated, whereas smothering it with epoxy resin fixes it all together, gets rid of any sharpness, protects the reed switch, smooth, holds down wires, seals all this, which is great, with loads extra put in the hills in case of vibration. And there's the fuse, 1 amp fuse. So let's get this all connected up and see whether it works. It works, it works. Switch that on. Ooh, flickering flame. Open this. Ooh, green light. That's great. So I don't have any wires. What I really should do is to buy a gimbal for the camera so that it can steady itself as I do all sorts of exciting panning and zooming. But I haven't got one, so I'll just have to keep a steady hand. Here's my old camera, which is fabulous, especially when you've got 2 young children, because it's waterproof right down to about 4 or 5 meters, which is fantastic. It's only got 2 buttons. 2 buttons, or 3 buttons, whereas my lovely new camera has got loads and loads of buttons. Excellent. So now, because I've learnt stuff, if I turn this, well, the camera switched off whilst I was setting it to manual settings. Never mind, it'll be a very useful feature. Let's move that out of the way. The main reason for setting the aperture and film speed is that you can get this, the black fabric, really black. You don't want the actual object you're photographing too light. It's nice to have a nice bit of contrast. So setting that means it doesn't automatically adjust. Let me show you, for example. Hold on. Here we are on automatic. So you look at that, it makes it brighter. You look at that, it makes it slightly darker. Here's another thing to look out for if you're manually setting shutter speed. I think this is on 1600. I'll switch that on. Ooh, Gordon Bennett, what on earth is going on there? Well, I'll tell you, dear friends, what's going on is it's so fast, the shutter speed, that it's sensing the pulse width modulation that are flickering all these little LEDs on and off, and also the fact they're not all on and off, switched on and off together, but they're multiplexed, so it's scanning through them. But if you turn it down to 400 ISA, which is far slower, and open up the aperture, you can see it looks like your human eyes will see it. Amazingly, this morning when I was checking my orders and things, I found that the last 3 new chronograph kits had sold, all in the space of one morning. So, because you never know about these things, so I'm making a new lot this time though, because originally I had 7 pendulum movements, so I just made 7 kits up. This time it's going to be 20. Now I know how popular they are, so I've set this up. And as you may know, each one is individually numbered. Now I was doing it a very difficult way, but now with this drawing on 2D design, 33 you say, there's the 3, copy, slide it along, and it fits. Look at that. I'm so pleased. Last time with the first 7 I actually went to the trouble of making up these lists with a photo of each part of the kit on. So I've got all these bits so I can check, double check. I'm currently making up the wooden bits, but equally today I've spent most of the day sorting out what I still need to get for another 20 kits. So I haven't got any of these little aluminium pots to put the wood stain in, the polish, and I haven't got the clock movements, and I haven't had this and that and the other, so slowly figuring it all out. But that's amazing. So here we go. Synchro number 32. Brilliant. There is a video of all of this being cut out in another video, so I won't inflict that on you this time. Hopefully I will see you next time. Thanks again. And remember, please click subscribe, and there's a bell button or something or other, I don't know. Every other YouTube person says that, so I thought I would as well. Thanks very much.